Hey, what's up, y'all? Driver Eyes here. Let's go talk to you about the. Let me roll this window up. I was gonna tell a Driver Eyes story today. All right, back in the day, I'm gonna say 1993, 1992, somewhere around that time. We lived in a project down in Dunbar, West Virginia, called the Bottom. But my mom had this cutlass for sale, this 1980 model cutlass, and she posted it in this. Well, I posted it. You call this phone number, and we had this thing called the ad bulletin. We had this little newspaper. It was like 75 cents for the paper, but you could call in and post for free. And we posted this car for sale. It was a 1980 model cutlass, just a 231 V6 in it. It was a cool car, actually. I ended up buying it, but this story is kind of about that. We put it in that paper for sale. This guy came to look at it. We had a couple people come to look at it, but this one guy, he was about, I don't know, 5 years older than me or so, 4 years older than me, but he came and looked at the car. And he was like, well, hell, it's cool and all this. And we went and he wanted to test drive it. So I told my mom he wanted to test drive it. And she was like, well, you ride with him. And I was like 17, 16 or 17. 17 and 92. But so I hopped in the car with dude and we took off and rode around Dunbar a little bit, you know, and small talked and all this and that. And he kind of downplayed the car. And I think she was only asking like $600 for the damn car. You know, that was the difference back then. I'd give twice that for that car right now, or more, because it was a cool ass car. But anyway, we drove it around, and he kind of acted like, well, I don't know if I want it or not, and I'll think about it. And we went back to the apartment. He was leaving, and he was like, hey man, do you party and stuff? And I'm like, yeah, a little bit, you know. I mean, I drank and smoked a little bit. And he's like, well, I'll holler at you in a little bit, and I might come back by and pick you up, and we'll go riding around. And I was like, fuck, all right. So like 2 hours later, he came back and picked me up. Well, he showed back up. I thought he was just bullshitting, but he showed back up in a company truck. He worked for this company that tests concrete for coal mines and all kinds of places. I'm not going to say their name, but he was in a early 90s S10 pickup, which was a new truck back then, and had the company name on the side of it and truck number and all this stuff. Just a single cab S10, 5-speed, probably 4-cylinder. It could have been V6. I didn't know a whole lot about the truck, but anyway, he picked me up in that, and he was like, hell, let's just go for a ride. And so we went riding around and burned one and shit, and we're just hanging out. And he's like, I'm gonna go get my friends, man. And I'm like, all right, well, that's cool, just so I get back home, you know. And he's like, oh, that's no big deal. So we're riding around, and we go up to Charleston, Charleston's only like 10 miles from where I lived in Dunbar. And we pick up some people up there. They're this little group of folks that run around up there all the time, long-haired, hippie-type people. They called themselves the Mall Rats. We went and picked them up, and they all got in the back of the truck, and one chick got in the front between me and him, and she was the only one that I knew. Actually, I knew her from several years earlier, back in the 80s, when we lived in this one place, and she was our neighbor. But I knew her, so we're bullshitting around and everything, and we take off, and we're riding around smoking weed and all this crap, and all these guys is in the back of the truck, and we're in the front. And he decides to go to some coal mines, which is what he did at work. He went around and tested concrete and shit that they poured around different coal mines. So it's dark by now, and we take off and go to this one coal mine in Campbell's Creek, West Virginia. We ride through a couple creeks, and we came to it wasn't a fork in the road, it was a four-way, and it was all dirt. And so he just stops right there and turns off the lights. And we get out, smoked like 3 joints. There was like 5 people in the bed of the truck, and then me and him and that chick was in the front. And we smoked them joints and hopped back in, and I'm like, all right, where we going? And he throws her in first gear and just turned the parking lights on and did like 4 or 5 donuts and turned the headlights on and just shot up a road. So none of us really knew where the hell we was. And he was doing donuts with all these fuckers in the back of the truck too, honestly. But anyway, we shoot up this road, and we're going up through there, about a mile or so, and there's this big ass bulldozer on the side of the road, like a D8 or something like that. I don't know if you know anything about dozers, but this thing's huge. The damn blade on the front of it was bigger than that S10. It was a big ass dozer. And these dudes hop out of the back, because we stopped right there and we were checking, looking at it and shit in the dark. And all them dudes hopped out of the back, and they're like climbing all over that damn thing and getting in it and all this shit. And dude's like, it's got keys in it. And I'm like, hell no, I ain't even getting out of the truck, y'all. I'm just, I'm not saying I was a good kid, but I don't fuck around like that. I ain't want to go to prison. And so dude's messing around, and he started the damn thing, and I'm like, we're gonna die or we're gonna go to jail. And he's sitting there trying to move it and shit, and he obviously never operated anything like that before. But it was like, all right, somebody's gonna come, y'all. We got to go. And so guys start hopping back in the truck, and that dude's still up there in that damn dozer, and he's like, it won't turn off. And he's turning the key back and forth and shit, and he's like, it won't turn off. And we're like, fuck it, leave it running, let's go. Well, this dude took the key, because you pulled the key out and it was still running. Well, he brought the key with him in his pocket. All right, so we take off from there, and was looking for this other coal mine, which they wanted to go in a coal mine. Fuck that too. I don't want to do that either, But we couldn't make it to the one that he was going to, because the road was way too rough for this little 2-wheel drive truck. And so we turned around and came back out and passed the dozer running again, and get like back down to that 4-way. And we see a pickup coming. So we stopped, and that guy stopped, and it said security right on the side of his truck. And he's like, what are y'all doing out here? It's like, well, we got lost. We was riding around. That's what old dude driving said. He's like, we got lost. We was out here riding around, and we don't know which way to go. How do we get out of here to get back to Campbell's Creek? And he told us which way to go, and we left. And he went straight right back there to where that fucking machine was riding. So we ended up messing around. We stopped a few more places and smoked some more weed and all this and that, and then ended up dropping those guys back off near the mall at like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. Dropped the girl off at this other place, and then he took me home. And the next day, I called him, and I was like, so what's up? And he's like, man, I got fired. And I was like, no shit, really? He's like, yeah, you remember that security guy that stopped? Yep. Well, he called into my company, and we was in his company truck that had numbers on it and shit, and he got fired. But that's about all I got for that story. It was just weird. It turned out from some dude coming to look at a car that we had for sale to going out and having this crazy ass adventure, which we could have went to jail. But he got fired over it. And too bad, so sad. It was a good job too. I mean, it was back then. It was back in 92. I believe it was in 92. But he made like $28 an hour, man. That was a kick-ass job. And he did dumb shit and got fired. But anyway, that's all I got for y'all. Pina coladas, y'all. Hey, don't be taking company trucks and doing stupid shit. They got numbers and shit on them. That's a lesson to the younger folks, or to any folks, honestly. Always thinking about the vehicle you're in before you do dumb shit. Or just don't do dumb shit. But anyway, later, y'all. Pina coladas.